Hello, Canes Nation. We are here on a Thursday night. We got this guy, the Wholesome One. That means it's going to be a good time. That means it's going to be full of knowledge, information, and fun. The Wholesome One's here to break down Miami football for the next 60. Wholesome One, great to see you.
Great to be here, man. It's been so long on Thursdays whether I had work or we weren't able to get the show to match up scheduling wise. It feels like forever, and it's I'm happy to be here. Happy to talk about my Canes, man. Happy, happy, happy.
Get on in here, folks, with your comments and questions for the next 60, and certainly bring some folks in here. Let people know on social media that we're here talking Canes for the next 60. You mentioned before we started to record the Under Armour All-American game and Miami having some pretty solid representation there. Did you get a chance to check it out and your evaluations of these guys?
Absolutely. We're going to start out in the fronts. We always start on the fronts here. Reuben Bain. Let's get into Reuben Bain, man. A young man that has a lot has been said about him as far as having 29 sacks and then 26 sacks as a senior, and if that's a valid number, if it really happened, blah, blah, blah. Because, Mark, you look up that number on anybody and you go, 29, they must mean TFLs. No, that doesn't make any sense. Over 100 career TFLs and 50 plus career sacks at the varsity level. No way. People don't want to validate that. But Reuben Hurricane Bain, as y'all see down there, took it upon himself to show the nation and to show all the offensive linemen and these big time guys who are going to Georgia, Bama, Florida, Ohio State, blah, 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 that he could play. And not only can he play, but he can dominate, whether it's a 3 technique, 4-out technique, 5 technique, he can play. I don't really have a comp for him, Mark. Some people want to say Dwight Freeney, but he's a pure edge rusher. We're talking about a guy who's a 6'2", 260 who can carry 280, 290 easily. He looks amazing in uniform. He's built from the waist down. And what we mean by that is spending a lot of time not skipping leg day, because a lot of people skip leg day.
Yeah, that doesn't impress the women. That's why you skip leg day.
The ladies love the traps and the tries and the buys and things of that nature. But when it comes to how to play this game, man, it's played from our feet and played from our legs, and of course, cerebrally, he's also an academic, big time academic guy at Miami Central, also. But he was able to prove that at 6'2", 260, he can use power, he can use finesse, he can go from speed to power, he can go push pull. Okay, they played him some 3 technique. They played him some 5 on the outside shady offensive tackle. And some guys that are going to very prestigious SEC schools made it known that he was the hardest player they had to block when it came to the Under Armour All-America game and throughout practice. He had a very, very good week. Stood out and things of that nature. Now, he's already a Miami Hurricanes signee, so I don't know if they're going to bump him up in recruiting because, he got a month left, and then 23 is already over. But in honesty, Mark, 23 has been over to a lot of people after December. Everyone wants to talk about 24 and 25 and even 26, Mark, when it comes to recruiting.
Reuben, the Hurricane Bain. Yeah, when I looked up his stats and built those graphics, I was like, oh my word. I just threw up his career stats here. 92 tackles for loss and 57 sacks. I don't think I've seen numbers like that.
Isn't that crazy? But it's all valid. And when you turn on the film, one of the other battles that we were privy to seeing is him going up against Francis Maui Gold, number 1 offensive tackle, or number 2, because Proctor out of Iowa is, Proctor to Bama.
Going to Bama. He's from Iowa, but yes, he changed his mind.
God, I really want to see him go to Iowa. Not to have, I don't have anything against Alabama. That doesn't really bother me. But it's just the fact that having a 5-star guy be a part of, and he's a first rounder either way. 6'7", 330. plug and play guy at one of your guard or tackle positions. Maybe not left tackle because of the feet, but he has a great, amazing feet. It's just that position is tough for 18-year-olds to do. If we're being honest, you can put him at left guard, right tackle, and let him just go play. But anyhow, Francis Mauigoa and Reuben Bain went at it. Now they knew of each other because they've gone to University of Miami official visits again with each other and things of that nature. But they had no chances to do some one-on-one pass pros. And in that Miami Central IMG game, a lot of people talk about the fact that the cornerback had the game-winning interception, threw the ball behind him before he crossed the end zone. But those of us that really watched it and got a chance to see some clips of it, we watched two of the best linemen go at it and really earn some great respect from each other. Some TFLs from Reuben and then some blowing off the ball from Francis Mauigoa. And then once Reuben went inside, he made a lot of his big-time plays against some of the interior guys from IMG Academy. But Reuben Bain is somebody that I've been bamming down the door for because he is not only a technician, because most short guys, Mark, in your time watching the game, the short guy, he has to be elusive, extremely quick, have the great IQ. He's a DN, but he has the IQ of a middle linebacker because we have to, shorter guy, 5'11" guy, but we have to use those kinds of things in order to make it to those levels and play big time ball and get in the backfield and get the sacks we have to have, because we're not 6'5" running a 4.2 and just fly around a guy. We can't chase young every player. We got be a little bit more cerebral in our approach. But I was happy to see Reuben translate these high school stats because, Mark, let's be honest. Miami-Dade County offensive linemen, not the best. And there's no shade in that. It's just a fact. Broward County, North Florida, like the more north you go, the better production that comes out of it. The size is a big difference. So we're seeing a guy where if you turn on the film, okay, some of the old linemen he's going up against, they may not even be playing D3 ball. Okay, cool. But he was able to take that to the Under Armour All-American game and have a really good game. He didn't necessarily get a sack in that game, but he had plenty of QB hurries, some pass breakups, which shows, and a couple TFLs, which shows he was living in the backfield. And I'll say this, just like I told anybody else that would listen, I would much rather figure out if he is worth all the hype and worth all the stats and worth all he's a Miami Hurricane must get while he's on our team, as opposed to seeing him in garnet and gold up in Tallahassee or orange and blue in Florida. And he was getting heavily recruited by Nick Saban to be a 3-4 outside linebacker, strong side outside linebacker for him, killing it with the Alabama Crimson Tide. So I'm happy to have him as a Miami Hurricane and happy to see him really standing out and showing up in a big-time environment like that.
Folks, we get the Wholesome One every Thursday at 8 o'clock Eastern Time, so I hope you guys appreciate what happens here, is because the Wholesome One is slammed in terms of his career and everything else going on, his own channel, and everything else he's got going on. And he dedicates his time to come on over here. And it's even more than the time, it's the expertise. So please consider a contribution. And Falconer X, we appreciate you as always. Someone, when you made the mention of it being difficult for an 18-year-old to come into college football and play left tackle, but they may slot early in their career across the board all the way in the other four positions. What made me think of a question here is that we generally know the difference between the responsibilities of a center and a guard, obviously, but in terms of technique, ability, what type size you're looking for, I've always thought of guards and centers being somewhat interchangeable, as opposed to maybe getting somebody that's more cerebral and so forth at the center position. But is there anything more to that?
Well, the difference, are we talking about the difference between guards and tackles? And then how
I was
left
going
tackle
guard
is
and
even
center.
different? Okay, guard and center. They're a little bit more interchangeable. Now, there's a little bit of a difference as far as the size. Your center, former center, can be a little shorter. Why? Because of the fact that they are in the interior. You rarely get an opportunity where they're one-on-one. You're always going to have help from guards unless you're playing more of that 3-3 stack scheme where you have to worry about that linebacker coming up, and now you have to be in great communication with your running back. You have to have great communication on the interior of offensive linemen, whether we're Ringo and Louing this thing or we're going to be big on. You got to have that great communication skill as a center. They can be anywhere from 6'2" to maybe that 6'4" range in the height at the D1 level. What's up, Shad? Blessings be unto you, man. Good to see you. So here supporting. Hopefully you hit that like button, and you got to be subscribed, and you have to be notification squad here because you never know when we're going to hit that live button. Hopefully you already did all of those things. Now, with wise, you want them in that. And we're talking about big time ball. Now, you get away with a 5'11", 5'10" in some instances if they're just elite, cerebral, and just you can't take them off the field because they just know where to be and know how. But you want them in that 6'2", 6'4". I would say as light in your 305s, 307s up to 320s, 330s easily. It's a very nice range at the center position. But the big thing that people don't understand is when we say cerebral, right? You throw that out all the time. The way defenses have now combated how complex offenses have been is that usually there were times where you could play center and you go, if I don't have a nose, I just got to double team the one technique all day long. It's not that hard, I'm hanging out. Nah, absolutely not. You watch some of these great teams like the Georgia, the Ohio States, the Michigans, where what you get pre-snap and what you're getting as I'm snapping the ball post-snap, a lot of that stuff is talked about with quarterback. The same thing can be said about pass protection. Who is the head of pass protection? Your centers. For example, let's say we get to the line of scrimmage, and as I get to the ball, I see an even front. Even front means 4 down, right? And I'm able to go Ringo, Louis, where we're going to go. We want to go to the strong side, opposite of the one technique, because I'm going to be able to help my guard with this one technique. Okay, so as I'm snapping it, boom, I get my hand out. Let's say my right hand is center. I get my left hand out immediately on that one technique, and my head is on a swivel because I need to see what's going to happen here. But traditionally, I could just take a power step here and be fine because what? The running back has the backer, so if he blitzes, I don't have to really worry about that. I got the big guy in front of me. Me and my left guard are taking advantage of that. No. What's happening now is, Mark, I can get to the line of scrimmage, and originally it's odd. So I look between my legs or I look over my shoulder and give the odd count to my quarterback because he's worried about the secondary and linebackers. So my job as a center would be being able to communicate the front to the rest of the line and to the running back, right? So we get there, and I might have 3 down initially. But as he's going through his cadence, that nickel is creeping up. The 0 technique is slowly starting to slip over. That 3 technique is now coming in. The middle linebacker is creeping up. And you go, oh, snap. Hold on, wait. I got to give a new call because now we have different things going on. So this is where you get more of a space or area pass protection that happens. So regardless of what's happening in front of me, if I call Louis or Ringo, but I'm calling it as opposed to big on, which is what we call a man pass protection, we're all going to, when I snap this ball, we step to our right, regardless of what's happening in front of us. But when you get people to start moving and, hey, I took my right step, but my guard took a left and he done stepped on my toe. Now we trying to, get that going up there. So center is so important. And it's really for those that have a very deep IQ, as far as most people just go, just snap the ball, fat boy. No, it's not. It gets deeper than that, man. And the other thing is being able to keep the snap in the proper place. Let's say, for example, we're running a read option. We're running an option that requires an ace jet just to get the defense to move. Well, if I have my butt up a little too high, because I just got hit in the mouth and I can't wait to snap this ball and get at that one technique who got me to play before, I could snap the ball a little too high. Now I mess up the whole thing. Okay, so all these things you're looking for in the center evaluation and when you're coaching centers, and they're really usually the leaders. Next to the quarterback, they're the ones calling the huddle. bringing everybody in. The quarterback either looks to the sideline or runs to the sideline, making sure that we got a quiet huddle. They're the leader of the offensive line. So center evaluation is a little different. You don't really see a lot of first round centers. These big, you got Landon Dickerson, 6'5", 330 at Alabama. He's an anomaly. Travis Frederick is 6'4", 320 guy out of Wisconsin, penciled in as a third rounder, goes in the first round, has a borderline Hall of Fame career with the Cowboys and things like that. So when you see good centers, Kelsey, not Travis, what's the other one? Jason. Is it Jason Kelsey?
Yeah. With Philly.
He's one of my favorite. He's one of my favorite guys, Mark, because he's like 6'2". But he knows how to use angles and how to get around and how to position himself in between guys that get into the ball carriers. So didn't mean to go on a long rant about center, but
love it.
It's just a position that's really important to me because that's where I got my start at. And then, get to college. And of course I had to move to D-line because I'm not 6'5", but played both ways in high school. But center was my biggest thing, man. 52 at center. And then of course D-line had to go to 44 at the collegiate level at Mayville and then NDSU later on. But so center is big for me. Now guard is a whole different monster. Reason being is we can go a little bigger. So now you want them maybe to start out at that 6'4" and get up to the 6'6". Nowadays, you need your guards that can move a little bit, but you also need your complete maulers. You need people that are just going to go 1, 2, and reset the line of scrimmage on the other side. And this 3 technique just doesn't know what happened to him because he's getting mauled off of the football. Now, that's usually your right guard. Left guard should be able to, run block too, but your left side is usually a pass protecting side. So we can get a little lighter on that side. So you might have a 6'5", 315 left guard, but you want that right guard north of 320 and a very angry person. Okay. You want them to be ready to move folks out of the way. And again, when I talk about people moving and things of that nature, on the defensive side of the ball and really influencing guards and centers communication. Okay. You watch teams like TCU. I know, Mark, you had a good time because Michigan lost this previous week. But TCU really had this Joe Moore award-winning offensive line of Michigan spinning in some instances. Well, because they are a man pass protecting offensive line. They're just that good. In contrast to a zone pass blocking, and whether I'm talking about that, right, left step, what I was illustrating earlier, places like Iowa, places like Minnesota, places like Wisconsin, they do both, but they're a little bit more into stepping as a unit. They're a little bit more into the zone, my area pass protecting, as opposed to leaving people on islands in man pass pro and man run block. Michigan, the best offensive line, and arguably them in Georgia, 2 of the better offensive lines, right? 1A, 1B, depending on who you ask. They were very, very keen on being man blockers. Now, when you're playing a very elusive scheme like the 3-3-5 stack that TCU run, transitioning from the 4-2-5 that they already had for over 20 years with Gary. What's Gary's last name? TCU's old head coach.
Gary Patterson. Now at Texas, teaching them the 4-2-5. The 3-3-5 stack that they brought from high school to TCU, there's a 4th and 5th blitzer on almost every single snap. So what was happening was the front was just manning the front, which allowed their weak side linebacker, number 17, that no one's heard of, to have the game of his life knifing in the backfield. Why? Because the left guard says, I'm worried about this guy in front of me. I'm not looking to the back. I'm not climbing to backers.
And they never made that adjustment. Why? Because, they were a little naive and think, hey, we're Michigan. We're going to eventually come back and win the game. And it bit them in the behind. But that's just an example of as far as the contrast of how offensive line is taught to a certain extent and coached to a certain extent. When it comes to how centers and guards and between right guard, left guard, center, man block, zone block, how that really works. Up to my knowledge now. I hope next year, if I have this conversation, I know even more. But that's what I know as of right now.
So you started us inside in the trenches
Mhm.
from those Miami prospects in the Army under All-American Under Armour
Under Armour
All-American
all
game.
game, right? Yeah.
Where do we go next?
Whew. Well, I guess we should just address the elephant in the room, and by elephant, we could also mean the Alabama, maybe the future Alabama player. Who knows where Cormani's going to go? Who knows? But Cormani Money McClain. For me, I was ecstatic. That might have been the last time we were on together, Mark. When he committed,
so.
and I was talking big trash, man. We had like 300 people in there.
Yeah.
And, I was super excited because guys like that don't commit to Miami. Miami historically, the positions we've had a tough part recruiting is corner and DN, and we've had some DN success, and hopefully we get that with Cormani McClain as far as the corner success. Prototypical size, speed. We would love to have him. He's committed to us. But there's been a lot of talk from the outside about what he and his family want to do. Okay. I trust, just like Coach Cristobal said, I trust the relationship that him and his staff have built with the McClain family. It's that simple for me. When a young man like this is that great, he can go to Dion in Colorado. He can go to Coach Saban in Alabama, and he could come to Miami if Miami gets their stuff together. He's probably still a top 50 pick, almost regardless of where he goes. My thing is, he's been committed for a while, and even in an interview, he had an interview where he said on January 15th, he will be signing his piece of paper, signing his NIL, and be going to where he's going to go because he wants to early enroll. And they asked him any other schools in the running, and he said Miami. Now, he could just be someone who's an awkward interview. Who knows? But not a lot of Miami Hurricanes fans were set at ease after listening to his tone in that interview. But I don't know, maybe because I'm a little older now and I'm a little bit more removed away from, this is 23. Next recruited class, Mark, will be 10 years after I was being recruited, 2014. So it gets to a point where you kind of go, all right, well, I wish the young man the best. I hope just don't go to Tallahassee. I wish the young man the best. And what he decides to do with his family, we'll be a little salty, but hey, he's a great player. Yeah, you want him on your team, and you hope that he doesn't do this amazing troll job. But I have confidence in DeMarcus Van Dyke, the cornerback's grad assistant coach. He's a great recruiter, and the young men love him. And he's working his way into being an official coach on staff. I have faith in his relationship. I have faith in Coach Mario Cristobal being a tenacious, relentless relationship builder. And Mark, I've been screaming those praises for years, Mark. I said, what was the key to success in recruiting? Relationships. So regardless of all the noise and the rumors and Dion to Colorado, or the Florida Gators just dropped the mega bag, or Nick Saban gets who he wants, if those things turn out to be true, hey. But for me, I think he's a Miami Hurricane. Now, how did he do at the Army All-American game? He had some, that corner, you're going to get beat. He had some reps where he got beaten. Some rival fans were like, oh, he got beat by a 3-star on a go ball. It happens, man. But he had a pretty good game. No interceptions or anything like that. They didn't really throw his way all that much. That's how you know you really had a good game. If a cornerback, Mark, has nothing on his uniform at the end of the game, that means he had one heck of a game, man. And nobody wanted to test him. Nobody wanted to throw his way, and he did his thing. So, again, I have faith in the Cormani McClain situation. I have faith in the relationships that this staff, specifically DeMarcus Van Dyke and Coach Mario Cristobal, have built with him. And whatever his decision is, God bless, buddy. God bless.
Is that it for the Miami commits?
I know we had another young man out there, and I don't want to misspeak. So I know, was it a receiver or another corner? I think it was a receiver. But I in the chat, y'all can let me know if we had somebody. I know it's another player we had out there that did pretty well. Somebody in the chat will be like, they'll tell me, and then I go, oh yeah. But as of right now, those are the guys I want to talk about from the Army All-America game.
The Wholesome One's here every Thursday night, 8 o'clock Eastern time. Get here, bring some folks with you. So that would be phenomenal if you grabbed a few folks to bring them in here as well every Thursday night when we've got the Wholesome One for 60.
Stafford. See, I told you I'd do it.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah.
I saw that name.
Yep. Stafford, yeah. Yeah, he's another defensive back for Miami, another defensive back commit. He was an athlete, though. He played receiver and corner in high school. But yeah, he had a good, he ran out, threw that U at the camera. That's all he asked, baby. Throw that thing up at the camera. But yeah, he had a pretty good one too, from what I heard. Nothing to really stand out big, but Reuben Bain was the main guy that we had to make sure we got that out there. But and McClain was mainly about all the rumors. But Reuben Bain, man. Reuben. I mean, Mark, I don't know if you've had a chance to watch any film on the young man, but
I have not.
No. You haven't?
No,
okay.
I have not.
Good. It's hard to explain because guys his size usually sometimes play DN, 6'2", 260.
Yeah.
But you look at him, you're like, oh, man, he wears that 260 different. And he's a power guy, but could also be a finesse. It's very, very unique. Very, very unique. And again, we're going to figure it out on Green Tree, and we're going to figure it out at Hard Rock Stadium.
Yeah, I don't watch tape on anyone. I'm just completely out of that business. There are better people to do that, and I don't have time. So I focus on what I can do.
Mark, I can only imagine. And I only do it a quarter time when it's time for recruiting. People who are like into recruiting, I just don't know how you could be into watching a bunch of 16 and 17, 15-year-olds. It's a little weird. But I live in Fargo and I cover the Miami Hurricanes. I guess that's weird too.
Well,
but
there are reasons for that.
Good. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
There are reasons for that.
Absolutely.
So where was I going to go with this? I lost my thought.
I know you got a question in there. Chat, if y'all have any questions, you want the H1H to break it down, let us know and we'll get to it. I got my whiteboard over here if anybody wants some of the XO's questions too, like we did last time. But
how much do you watch the old games from the previous season? Not the old games, but the last season.
Ooh,
will you go back and watch some of the games or all the games?
I have. Where do you want the Hurt to start? What do we want to talk about?
Did they really play a good game this year? I guess maybe the Georgia Tech game would be the best game they played.
It's the best game. Best game I've seen Miami play all year last year was Georgia Tech. And because I think Virginia Tech was still, they just looked like two bad teams. And Virginia looked like, somebody has to win the game. That's what Virginia felt like and looked like, man. But Georgia Tech, it gave the illusion that everybody is bought in and we got our new quarterback and we're running this offense that fits him and Cam Kitchens is Ed Reed 2.0. I mean, people just started lying, Mark, just lying. But You hear a lot of things about last year. What's tough at covering the team, man, what's tough about it is you're privy to some special information. But as a former player, you also can identify when things just don't seem right. It just doesn't sit right. It started out with us learning that Tyler Van Dyke had none of his wide receivers' numbers in the offseason. Started out with following these guys on social media, and it looks like some of them don't even hang out with each other.
He didn't have their numbers. He couldn't contact them.
Mark, he had no receiver's number in his phone. So how do you go set up 7-on-7s? How do you, I mean, and I don't even know if you could put that on Manny Diaz or Rhett Lashley or the previous staff. Like, how is that not a thing, you know? And that comes straight out of the mouth of Josh Gaddis. He said the number one thing he found out that was so alarming was you're supposed to go to proverbial war with each other and you all don't have any off the field relationships amongst each other.
Yeah.
You got old linemen hanging out with DBs, linebackers hanging out with receivers. What? You know, what is this? It didn't feel like a true team, a brotherhood, a unity. Felt like a football team. Just guys that sign up to go play football and wear orange and green, you know, and throw up to you.
You mentioned Manny Diaz. Have you had a chance to really look at his work this year? Because obviously Penn State is coming off a nice season, won the Rose Bowl, finished 11-2. The defense is going to produce a lot of NFL players and, finish off with a nice Rose Bowl.
You know, Mark, when you said that name initially, I had a reaction, and I'm just glad I didn't say that out loud. But I will say this. Manny Diaz's defensive qualifications should have, and at no point, in my personal opinion, been brought up as a negative. I think he's always been a good to very, very good defensive coordinator. Wearing both the hat of a DC and a head coach is a separate thing, and we've kind of gotten into that. I think he had a really good season. I mean, you lost to two teams that made the playoffs, and you kind of dominated some of your other games, excluding those two and Purdue. Purdue, to start out the season, was really close on the road. But one thing about coaches that get second opportunities, the good part about what Coach Diaz had the opportunity to do was that he stepped into an elite defensive culture. I mean, Penn State has been one of the better defensive. They're LBU. They're in conversation for linebacker U. LeVar Arrington and Navarro Bowman and, insert name here. What's the young man for the Cowboys?
Sean
Number
Lee.
11. Sean Lee. Yeah, Sean Lee with the Penn State too.
Sean Lee.
Talk about the edge rusher.
Oh, my word. Yeah, he's tearing it up.
Micah Parsons?
Micah Parsons.
Yeah.
Yes.
Penn State.
Absolutely.
So they have a great culture on that side of the ball. Now, they had been a 3-4 team and a nickel on third downs, but now they were able to bring in this 4-2-5 that Coach Cristobal brings in. Coach Diaz brings in. And Coach Diaz is one of those uber aggressive, flying at you kind of DCs. It bit him in the behind against Michigan, kind of bit him in the behind against Ohio State, because one thing about blitzing, Mark, especially man blitzing, which he specializes in, when you man blitz and it starts to pop, as they call it, or spill, as they call it, or touchdown is another term they like to use. No one else is there to help. Okay, so if you don't funnel it back inside, if you don't spill that pulling guard, if you don't keep everything or get the TFLs, it's a really feast or famine kind of thing. Now, over his time this season, I evaluated the fact that he went to more, he got away from his safety blitzing, and he went more to his nickel and striker blitzing, which maintained what? One high. He kept somebody over top to help tackle just in case it does spill or pop. But it's still a feast or famine kind of approach. And he joined an elite culture. He also joined a very stacked defense because I think they were 11th last year, and he stepped in and was able to add to what had already been done. Not to take anything away from Coach Diaz and what he's done. I'm just saying that it's a little different because he's shown to go and build in some instances, but we'll see as far as recruiting and what's going to happen maybe 2 or 3 years removed when the previous coaches, guys, and Coach Fry, one of the better defensive coordinators that took the Virginia Tech job, once his guys are out, what Manny Diaz's defense look like then. Not in a slight way, not to, secondhand comment. And I'm just saying that's something I was looking at.
Yeah, they had 6 defensive players taken in the NFL draft last year, and I know that they had a few others that could have gone, and they stayed back, and a lot of people thought they had the best secondary in the country this year.
Hey, I think they played very, very well. Now, they got lucky that young man got hurt now, the Utah quarterback. What's his name?
That could be.
Because
yeah, that made it easier.
Right, and then it got to a point where it looked like they couldn't even move the ball no more. So, and he took full advantage of it. Once you smell blood in the water, do it, because they will do it to you.
Reggie's here. Appreciate you being here,
What
man.
Up, Reggie? Good to see you.
Wholesome one. How do you attack a 3-3-5 defense?
Why is this so effective?
Oh, why is the 3-3-5? Yeah.
Huh. Okay. What's tough about this 3-3-5 scheme is that it hasn't been out and used enough to where OCs can figure out how to pass protect against it effectively and how to combat the mixture of having these weird looking outside linebackers. Okay, because the 3-3-5, your outside linebackers are basically similar to your strikers in a 4-2-5, where both of them are like big safeties to a certain extent. Because you have to, and The Rock means have to be able to cover as an outside linebacker in a 3-3-5 stack or 3-3-5 regardless defense. Because they are, not only are they off of the ball, but they're in open space constantly. Even if they are blitzing, they're coming off of the edge kind of thing. So they're in open space. The big issue is, I think, once it's out enough, once OC spend off seasons enough, just like the 4-2-5 was this big new defense a couple of years ago. By 2019, most people were really trying to creep to the 4-2-5, not necessarily as a base, but just have it in their repertoire as a defensive coordinator. And it also, once you figured out where they were blitzing from, once you figured out how to influence their inside linebackers, how to make them go where you want them to go, you can go and attack over the middle of the field. What offensive coordinators would do against the 4-2-5 is come out in a 2-by-2 set and have that running back do a little curl right in front of that Mike linebacker, which would make him do what? Step up, and they would attack right over where that linebacker was with deep over routes and post routes and things of that nature if they caught them in the right scheme. Okay. It's effective again because most people have not seen how to stop it yet. I don't have the answers of how to stop it. I don't. And even if I did, I wouldn't tell you because I want TCU to beat your team. I really do. TCU, national champions. I would love to see it. I would absolutely love to see it. I would have preferred TCU, Ohio State. That's what I wanted to see, but that's just H1. I know
because
Mark.
You think it would be a better game?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it would have been must see. It would have been must see, especially when CJ Stroud played. Oh, he deserved to win that game, Mark. Oh, he was playing
I
his
know he
behind
did.
off. He was playing his behind off. The man don't run out the pocket, not a never. But you bet your bottom dollar he was running out that pocket this past game. God, that hurt to see him lose that game like that. And coming from a Miami guy,
Exactly.
who
I'm
was
surprised.
who was raised to hate that school and the way that y'all paid that referee who happened to be an alumni of the school. Mark, how y'all get an alumni of the school to referee the damn game? We're not gonna get into that because I'm gonna get upset.
I would only dive into that topic if somebody could research as to whether there were alumni from other schools at any time reffing a playoff game or a national championship game. Like if that's the only time it's ever happened in history, then I would say, okay, yeah, there's something wrong there. But
I mean, we
I
can't
don't
go
know if
back
it's
and
ever
change
happened
it.
before or
I
since.
tell you what, you look at both programs since then. One has never let it go, and the other one could care less. They have moved on, and they don't care. It's the most controversial flag to have ever been thrown, man. But anyway, I believe
the way those two games hit me was this. The TCU Michigan game, and I give all credit to TCU. They had game control. They, in some ways, won that game more than 51-45, but Michigan put themselves in position and made some really bad mistakes. Of course, the 2 pick sixes, the blunders inside the 5-yard line. They could have put who knows how many points on the board, 65. But that seemed like just this crazy, odd game where just ridiculous things happened and you didn't know what was going to happen next. Georgia and Ohio State look like maybe the two best teams in the country, just at peak performance, just going at it, and that just being colossal. Just a great game.
See, I still think the TCU Michigan game was the better game. I don't know if it's because the team I wanted to win won. Because, oh, man, that hurt to see, man. Because as someone that I know what it feels like to give your all, to pour it out on the field, and it just not go your way. That had to be hard, man. But at least he can hang his head on his last game as a Buckeye. CJ Stroud played his ass off. And he earned some national respect for that one. Because a lot of people looked at it like, oh, they blow out everybody and then they get their ass whipped by Michigan. And then, but they came out and took it to them people, man. I personally, I'm growing to like and respect Kirby Smart. But the brashness of Georgia fans and Stetson Bennett, that guy, I don't like him. I do not like him. I do not like him.
You don't like what about him? As a player? Or
he's
you
just
don't like
a
what he
snobby
says?
he's just snobby. And I get it, man. You'll walk on, and he's giving me Baker Mayfield vibes, man. Just this entitled thing. That's why I want him to get his ass whooped on Monday. I want TCU to beat. It won't happen. It won't happen. It won't blow him out. But I hope that they get to him a couple times. He's an arrogant asshole.
Well, I'm rooting for TCU too. I'm rooting for TCU because from a national historical standpoint, when everybody's adding up numbers in the off season and you got this many national championships and you making all those, well, TCU's not going to be in the conversation unless they go on some crazy run. So they're not in that conversation, but Georgia would just put another national championship on the board.
Right. Would it mean much? I mean, yes. Yes, they put in a lot of work. They are the hunted now. Yes, it would mean much. Now this is what I would have preferred if I could do it my way now. I would have had TCU play Georgia and upset them, right? And then have Ohio State get their revenge in the playoffs. Come on, talk to me now, Mark. And now that
You're preaching.
woo, that's ratings for you right there. That's ratings. That's ratings for you right there. That would be so rich.
With all the Ohio State Michigan fans on my channel,
Right.
it's crazy. Obviously the ultimate would have been if they would have both won, and I couldn't create enough content right now to keep up with it.
If
But
they would have played in the Natty.
once Michigan lost, what I was hoping for, aside from my own personal rooting interests as a businessman, was Ohio State to win the Natty, and then there would be this great debate all off season because Ohio State would have the Natty, but Michigan would say, well, we beat you twice in a row and won the Big Ten, so we got bragging rights. And Ohio State would say, fans would say, well, we got the Natty.
They would show them rings and go, it don't matter. Look at that ring on the finger. Now, I know Miami fans, I know you're probably like, oh, it's a Miami show. We're going to get back to Miami. But we love to have at least like the last 10 minutes. We talk national a little bit. But, yeah, everybody should be rooting for Texas Christian. Not if you're Christian or not, that has nothing to do with it. You should be rooting for Texas Christian University because I will tell you this. I think we might be on the precipice of another like Alabama roll if Georgia starts to.
Yeah, sure.
They could kind of pull away from the rest of us here.
Yeah. Before we need to leave tonight, we do have Reggie here asking about the Marvin Harrison targeting and whether you actually think that was targeting.
I can honestly say it like this. If the Michigan one wasn't, then I could say this one was on the cusp. And I personally would say I thought it was, but that's of course because I was rooting for Ohio State. But looking at it wasn't targeting, it was shoulder to shoulder, it wasn't targeting. Now, him being knocked out for a concussion and him hitting his head, it was more of his head hitting the turf as opposed to that young man putting his shoulder in his head or his helmet on his head. So by rule, it was not targeting, and I think they got that right as opposed to going with the momentum or going with the crowd or blah, 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 and just awarding that. That, to me, was a big turning point in the game. Just like Kirby Smart and whoever happened to get him to call that timeout on that fake, those two things right there were big turning points in this game.
Ohio State would have kept the ball with an 11-point lead with there was somewhere between 8 and 10 minutes left in the game. I don't remember exactly where.
I thought it was 8:04.
What's that?
8:04. 8 minutes and 4 seconds left in the game.
Okay, 8 minutes left in the game. You're up 11. You convert that, and you've got the ball at the Georgia 40, 45.
Yep. At worst, you take another 2 minutes off the clock. 6 minutes. At best, you may get a big pop touchdown, which might be ball game. You might be able to take anywhere of upwards of 4 minutes left off the clock, which gives them 4 to 3 minutes to figure out how to get it done. So, again, elite timeout, man. Elite time. Yeah. Whoever got him to use that timeout.
And we've got an Ohio State guy that we record with, and he said, I watched that over and over and over, and I went frame by frame, and he said, I got to say, he didn't make it by much, but he got it. He got the timeout called in time.
And you have to remember, what people don't get about that sideline is, regardless of whether he verbally says timeout or get the gesture in, the referee, the minute he sees or hears timeout or sees the hand go up like this, they can overrule and say and award the timeout because they saw it. That's why he runs in and starts blowing his whistle immediately. That's just knowledge of the rules. So, yeah, it was real close, like almost a nanosecond, but either way, it would have been awarded based on that.
So I don't know if you heard this, but we've talked about this a number of times on my other platforms. Ohio State did have 12 players on the field. I don't know if they would have gotten away with it.
Yeah, because that play wasn't called either. That flag wasn't called.
And we're going to finish up with this one. And I don't know what the wholesome one's going to feel about this, but I just got to set something straight here. Okay. Here's the deal. This is how I look at things.
Oh, my
Jeremiah
goodness.
says that flag was the most blatant cheating. Okay. This is
Are we doing
how.
this?
Well, hear me out here. If we're
Alright.
playing one-on-one, we're playing hoops back in the backyard, we're playing one-on-one, or we're playing cards, or we're playing a board game, or whatever. We're playing touch football, tackle football by ourselves. There's no officials. You got to call your own pass interference, fouls, whatever. Or you can cheat. You can slip a card here and there. That's cheating. That is cheating. When you have officials there, Ohio State or any other team has absolutely nothing to do with the calls that are made. That is the stupidest argument I've ever heard. Well, I hear some stupid ones pretty much.
I was going to say, Mike, you probably heard some crazier
Yeah, I've heard much worse than that. But
yeah, I mean, you had one guy that used to call in. You had one guy that used to call in that just, was it that Cal is the real national champion of the 1986 season or
BYU?
BYU. Oh,
BYU,
man.
1984.
He used to comment every day on all your platforms. He would copy and paste that exact same thing. It was weird.
I have counted 35, 40 comments in the span of 5 hours from him. Many times more than once. This wasn't just one rampage. This went on for months. I produced a video where I was going through disputed national championships, and I did a 1984. And I wasn't taking, this is what I can't get across from him, but I specifically state this in the video. I am not taking a national championship away from BYU. I'm just saying there are other teams that had resumes to be considered, and that was back when there was a vote. So that's all I'm saying. He can't let go of that.
Oh man, I mean, I know you got the call-in show.
No, so I actually have USC. We typically do USC on Monday night, but
hey, the cousins to the west, baby.
We're doing USC here.
Mark, you got to get us on. I got to be able to share some love with them. I don't know if they give a crap about Miami. I don't know if they like us or not. But there's a couple people that are USC people, supporters on my channel, and they come in and always support. That give love, man. But we rooting for them. They should root for us, right? That's what,
And you could especially have something going if you get your wish and Miami moves to the Big Ten.
I might cry.
Then your conference rivals.
So happy. That wouldn't bother me. I think. Well, they would probably put us. No, they couldn't put us on the same side, right? Oh, they're getting rid of divisions. That's not a thing anymore.
Yeah, but I got to think that they would. I don't know what they're going to do with scheduling.
You would definitely want that to happen. You know what's so weird when people are like travel? It's not 1976, dude. Like, what do you mean? West Virginia travels what 1,000 miles for every away game?
Yeah, they don't play any close games.
No one cares about that, man. And it's the money, number one. And number two, it's matchups and ratings. You could get 6-6 Miami to play 6-6 USC in a bowl game, and eyes will be on that.
Sure.
Brand names, and that's just how that goes. I saw another question in there from Anthony Manzano.
Okay. We got to run.
Okay.
So, wholesome one. I appreciate you. And thank you for doing this. We don't have a show without you, so thank you so much.
Heck yeah. Yes, it's a blessing, man. And I'll tell you all this. Happy holidays, former holiday. I missed all of that. And happy New Year to all of you all, man. But take life, man, and be happy for it. Because it's a blessing every day that we wake up, man. So thank you all. Appreciate it. Go Canes.
USC Live next on the USC channel within 2 minutes. Thanks, man.